You've been there, haven't you? That place where you feel unseen, unappreciated, like your heart is too much for others to handle. And so you beg for attention, for love, for validation from the very people who don't see your worth. You put your needs aside, you bend yourself out of shape, and you allow yourself to become small just to get a fraction of the affection you crave. You think that maybe if you just give more, if you just make yourself more available, they'll finally see you for who you are. But the truth is, when you beg to be loved, you are giving away your power. You're making yourself less than the person you were meant to be. It's time to stop begging for love and start demanding the love you deserve from yourself. You've been there, feeling like you're invisible, like your heart is a puzzle piece that doesn't quite fit anywhere. You've given pieces of yourself over and over again, hoping that someone will see you, that someone will truly see you for who you are and finally offer you the love you're desperately craving. You think that by showing up for them, by making yourself smaller, easier to love, you'll finally be wanted. You'll finally be enough. But the more you beg, the more you lose yourself, the more you lose your sense of worth. It's a slow process, isn't it? First, you give a little of yourself. Maybe it's your time, your attention, your energy, thinking it's just a small sacrifice for the connection you're craving. Then it's your needs, your boundaries, your voice. Every time you give, you think it will bring you closer to the love you've been longing for. But what you don't realize is that with every compromise, you are losing something so much more precious than your time. You're losing your self-respect. You're losing the very foundation of who you are. When you beg for love, you give up your power. You let someone else define your worth. You allow someone else to determine how much you matter. And you start to believe that their affection, their approval is what makes you worthy of love. But that's a lie. True love, the love you deserve, never comes from someone else's validation. It's not something you earn through sacrifice or by bending over backward for approval. Real love begins with you. It begins with respecting yourself enough to know that you are worthy, whether anyone else sees it or not. And that's the price of begging for love. Your worth becomes tied to someone else's actions. You become a shadow of yourself, always seeking validation, never feeling truly enough, always believing that if you just give a little more, you'll finally earn what you've been chasing. But the more you chase, the further it moves away from you. The more you give, the less you have of yourself to offer. And in the end, what's left? A hollow version of you, desperately trying to fill the emptiness with someone else's love, when the truth is, you already had the ability to love yourself all along. It's painful, isn't it, to realize that you've spent so much time seeking someone else's love when the love you've been searching for has always had to come from within. No one else can give you the self-respect you need. No one else can fill the emptiness that only your own acceptance can heal. You've been looking outside for what you were meant to create inside yourself. And in doing so, you've lost sight of the most important thing. You are enough as you are. You don't need anyone's validation to be whole. You don't need anyone else to tell you that you matter. But here's the breakthrough, the realization that shifts everything. You don't have to beg for love anymore. You don't have to shrink yourself to compromise who you are just to feel wanted. You can stand tall, proud of who you are, and know that the love you need isn't something you have to beg for. It's something you give to yourself first when you truly respect yourself, when you stop looking for others to define your worth, you stop settling for crumbs. You stop giving away parts of yourself that you can never get back. You stop measuring your value by how others treat you, and you begin to measure it by how you treat yourself. You are not a beggar in this world. You are worthy as you are. Your love isn't something that needs to be earned through sacrifice or through bending your boundaries. It's something that is already yours, waiting for you to claim it. The moment you stop begging for love, you reclaim your power, you reclaim your dignity, and that's when true love begins, not from someone else, but from within you. The kind of love that fills you up, that makes you whole, that doesn't come with conditions or expectations. The kind of love that says, I am enough. You've been chasing someone else's approval for too long. Now it's time to stop, let go of the need to beg for love, and start giving that love to yourself. Because once you do, you'll find that the love you've been searching for was never out there. It was within you all along. And when you truly see your worth, when you finally realize that you are enough, the world will treat you the way you've always deserved. You've been there, haven't you? That moment when you gave a little too much of yourself, when you bent just a little bit more than you should have, all in the name of making someone else happy. You've convinced yourself that love requires sacrifice, that to be loved, you must give parts of yourself away. And it seemed so simple, didn't it? Just please the other person, just meet their expectations, and maybe, just maybe they will love you the way you need to be loved. But what happens when you give too much, when you lose yourself in the process of trying to make someone else feel happy, valued, or accepted? At first, it feels like you're doing the right thing. After all, isn't love about sacrifice? You think that the more you give, the more you will receive. But little by little, you start to lose sight of who you are. You mold yourself into someone you're not. You start to take on their likes, their dislikes, their needs, and their demands, leaving your own needs behind. You become so focused on pleasing them that you forget about the person you were before. And the longer you keep this up, the more disconnected you become from yourself. It's not that you didn't try, it's not that you didn't care. The truth is, you gave everything you had, hoping that it would be enough. But in the process, you forgot the most important thing. You forgot that in a relationship, you're supposed to be seen for who you truly are. But somewhere along the way, you began to feel like you had to hide your true self, to become someone else, to be loved, to be accepted. And that feeling, that deep sense of being lost in the midst of trying to please others, is suffocating, isn't it? You've been so caught up in trying to meet their expectations that you've lost touch with your own identity. You've lost the ability to listen to your own heart, to know what you truly want, need, and desire. Every time you molded yourself into someone else's vision of who you should be, you gave away a little bit of your soul. And now you're left wondering, who am I? What happened to the person I used to be? How did I end up here, so far from my true self? The pain of constantly trying to please others is that it leaves you empty. You give and give, but what do you have left for yourself? What do you have left to build your own life, your own happiness? When you prioritize someone else's happiness over your own, when you put their needs before yours, you start to chip away at the very foundation of your identity. You start to lose yourself in their version of who you should be. And the emptiness you feel inside only grows. But here's the truth you need to hear. You don't need to mold yourself into someone you're not to be loved. You don't have to sacrifice who you are for the sake of someone else's approval. True love, real connection, is not built on the need to please or to be anything other than yourself. When you stop sacrificing pieces of your soul to make someone else happy, you create space for the love that is meant for you, the love that will see you for who you are, not who you pretend to be. The moment you stop pleasing others is the moment you begin to reclaim yourself. You start to remember who you are, what you want, and what makes you feel whole. You begin to realize that love doesn't come from losing yourself. Love comes from being fully yourself, from standing strong in your truth, and from letting others love you for exactly who you are. You are worthy of love, not because you sacrifice yourself, but because you are enough, just as you are. When you stop the constant cycle of people-pleasing, you rediscover your own power. You learn that the love you seek can only come when you are whole. When you are grounded in who you truly are, you start to let go of the illusion that you need to please others to be worthy of their affection. The truth is, you don't have to become someone else to be loved. You have to become the best version of yourself. And when you do, the people who truly matter will see you, will love you, and will accept you, not because you've molded yourself to fit their expectations, but because you've shown up as the real, unapologetic you. And that's where true, lasting love begins. You've been putting everyone else first, haven't you? Always making sure they're okay, always bending your needs to accommodate theirs, always looking for their approval, their validation. You tell yourself it's just what love is supposed to be: sacrifice, selflessness, giving up a piece of yourself to make someone else happy. But deep down, you know it's taking a toll. You know that in your efforts to please others, you've started to lose yourself. Your energy is drained, your boundaries are blurred, and the love you're giving doesn't feel like enough. Not for them, and certainly not for you. So what happens when you choose yourself? What happens when you decide that your emotional well-being matters as much as anyone else's? That moment, the moment you choose yourself, is the moment everything shifts. No more begging for love, no more waiting for someone else to validate your worth. You stop seeking external approval, and for the first time in a long time, you start looking inward. You realize that the love you've been chasing outside yourself was never the answer. It's always been inside of you, waiting for you to claim it. Choosing yourself doesn't mean abandoning others. It doesn't mean you stop caring, stop loving, but it does mean you stop allowing others to define you, to dictate your worth. For too long, you've let your value be determined by how others see you, how they treat you. And every time they didn't measure up, it cut deep. You've been constantly searching for a reflection of your worth in someone else's eyes. But that search always leaves you empty. The truth is, your worth has never been up for negotiation. It's never been tied to someone else's ability to see it. When you choose yourself, you take back that power. You recognize that you are worthy of love, respect, and care, not because someone else says so, but because you say so. And that's where your freedom begins. You stop bending yourself into shapes that don't fit. Stop sacrificing your needs for the sake of someone else's comfort. You draw your boundaries. You say no when you need to, and you say yes to the things that honor who you truly are. It's scary, isn't it? The idea of putting yourself first, of prioritizing your own emotional needs above others. You've been taught your whole life that this is selfish, that love means giving yourself away without a second thought. But here's the truth you need to hear. Choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. You cannot pour from an empty cup if you don't give yourself the love, respect, and care that you deserve. How can you ever expect others to give it to you? The foundation of all healthy relationships, whether with others or yourself, is built on this: recognizing your own worth and giving yourself permission to honor it. And here's where the real transformation happens. When you start choosing yourself, everything changes. Your relationships shift. No longer do you accept disrespect or allow your boundaries to be crossed or give up your values to make someone else happy. You start attracting people who respect your boundaries, who see your worth, and who are willing to meet you halfway. You stop settling for less than you deserve. And more importantly, you stop waiting for someone to love you in the way you think you should be loved. You realize that the love you're searching for is already there, within you. When you choose yourself, you stop looking outside for validation because you found it within. It's a quiet but powerful revolution. The moment you choose yourself, you give yourself the gift of freedom. You free yourself from the constant cycle of seeking, of longing for love, from places that were never going to give you what you needed. You let go of the belief that your happiness depends on others, and you take responsibility for your own emotional well-being. And in doing so, you create the space for true, fulfilling relationships. Relationships where love is built on mutual respect, where your needs are honored, and where you are seen for the beautiful, strong person that you are. Choosing yourself isn't easy. It's not an overnight shift, but the moment you make that decision, everything starts to change. You stop living for others and start living for you. And that's when you realize the moment you chose yourself, you finally set yourself free. You've been trying so hard, haven't you? Giving pieces of yourself, bending who you are to fit someone else's idea of love, hoping that somehow you'll find the connection you crave. You tell yourself that this is what love is supposed to be: sacrifice, compromise, giving everything of yourself to make the other person happy. But deep down, something doesn't feel right. You give and give and give, but in return, you feel empty, you feel lost, as though you're losing yourself in the process. And the harder you try to make them see you, the less you feel like you are truly seen. Here's the truth you need to hear. Love is not about being someone else's ideal. It's not about contorting yourself to fit someone else's vision of who you should be. True love, the kind that heals, the kind that builds, begins with one thing: loving yourself unconditionally. You can't give someone else the love they need if you haven't learned to give it to yourself first. You can't expect someone to love the real you if you don't even love that person yourself. It's easy to think that love is about giving everything, about sacrificing who you are for the other person's happiness. But the problem with that is simple. When you give everything without keeping anything for yourself, you start to lose the most important thing, the essence of who you are. You bend until you break, trying to fit into the mold someone else has created for you. But the truth is, love isn't about losing yourself to gain someone else's affection. Love is about showing up as you, the full, authentic, unfiltered version of yourself. And when you love yourself without compromise, you stop seeking someone else's approval. You stop relying on others to define your worth, and you start living from a place of inner strength and peace. You might be wondering, how do I love myself when I feel so unworthy? How do I stop seeking validation from others when I've always needed it to feel whole? It's hard, I know. It's hard to accept yourself when you've been conditioned to think that your value comes from how others see you. But the key to unconditional love isn't about waiting for someone else to give it to you. It's about giving it to yourself. It's about accepting yourself, flaws and all, and realizing that you don't need anyone's permission to feel worthy of love. You are worthy because you exist. You are worthy because you have the courage to stand in your own truth, even when it feels like no one else sees it. And that, my friend, is the foundation of real love. When you love yourself unconditionally, you stop giving away pieces of yourself just to feel accepted. You stop compromising who you are for the sake of someone else's happiness. And that's when the magic happens. That's when real, lasting love begins to flow into your life. Not the kind that drains you, not the kind that leaves you feeling invisible or unappreciated, but the kind that nourishes you, the kind that is built on respect, honesty, and deep, unconditional acceptance. This love starts with you. You begin to set boundaries, not out of fear, but out of respect for yourself. You begin to say no when something doesn't honor your worth, and you begin to say yes to the things that fill you up, that bring you peace, that remind you of who you really are. You stop giving from an empty cup, and instead you give from a place of abundance, a place where you know that you are whole and you have everything inside of you to give without losing yourself in the process. True love isn't about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding someone who complements the love you already have for yourself. It's about being two whole, complete people coming together, not to fill each other's gaps, but to build a relationship where both of you are respected, supported, and loved for who you are. And when you start loving yourself unconditionally, you create the space for that kind of love to flow freely into your life. You don't have to beg for love. You don't have to prove your worth. When you love yourself truly, deeply, and unconditionally, you stop seeking someone else's love to validate you. You start giving love freely, without expectation, without needing anything in return, because you know that your worth is not dependent on someone else's actions. Your worth is inherent, and the love you give is an extension of that truth. And when you live from that place of self-love, everything changes. Your relationships become healthier, your heart becomes freer, and you become the kind of person who doesn't need to seek love because you already have it inside yourself, radiating outwards. And in the end, that's the only love that lasts, the love that comes from a place of wholeness, the love that doesn't require sacrifice because it's built on the foundation of mutual respect, understanding, and unconditional acceptance. When you choose to love yourself, you create the space for all the love you deserve to flow freely into your life, starting with the love you give to yourself. And that's when you truly begin to live. There's a quiet ache that lingers, isn't there? The need to be seen, the need to be recognized, acknowledged, validated. You've probably felt it more times than you can count. The moments when you've given your all, hoping that someone, anyone, will see you for who you truly are. You've chased approval, searched for someone to tell you that you matter, that you're worthy, that you're enough. But the truth is, every time you've sought validation from others, every time you've allowed someone else's opinion of you to define your worth, you've handed over pieces of yourself, and the more you give away, the less you have left to stand on your own. How many times have you found yourself looking for external approval to feel good enough? Maybe it's in a relationship, maybe it's in your job, or maybe it's in social circles where you just want to belong. The truth is, at some point, we've all sought validation from outside ourselves. We believe that if someone else sees our worth, then it must be real. But what happens when that validation doesn't come? What happens when the people you need to see you don't? You feel empty. You feel lost. And that validation you've been chasing, it slips further and further out of reach, leaving you with a hollow sense of not being enough. It's easy to get caught in this trap. The world around you constantly tells you that your worth is determined by how others see you. If you're liked, if you're accepted, if you're celebrated, then you matter. And so you bend, you shape yourself into something others will approve of. But here's the painful truth you need to hear. This is a cycle that never ends. Because when your worth is defined by others, you'll never truly know who you are. You'll never be able to stand firm in your own identity because it's always shifting, always changing, always dependent on someone else's approval. Imagine for a moment what it would feel like to let go of that need, to stop seeking validation from people who may never give it, to stop waiting for the external world to give you permission to feel worthy. It feels terrifying, doesn't it? Letting go of something that's been such a huge part of your life. But the moment you release that need for validation is the moment you begin to set yourself free. You realize that your worth is not dependent on how others see you. Your worth is inherent, and it always has been. You don't need to bend yourself out of shape for anyone. You are enough, just as you are. Here's where the real shift happens. When you release the need for external validation, you start to connect with yourself. You stop seeking approval from others and begin to build an authentic connection with who you truly are. You stop letting the opinions of others define your sense of self, and instead, you start to define it yourself. You understand that the love you need, the validation you seek, is something that comes from within. You don't have to chase it because you already have it. It's always been inside you, waiting for you to recognize it. This is where you begin to truly heal. You stop relying on others to complete you, to tell you that you're enough, because you already know it deep in your soul. You no longer need someone else to tell you that you matter. You know that you matter. And when you realize this, everything changes. Your relationships shift. The neediness you once felt disappears because you've stopped depending on others to fill the void inside you. Instead, you're filled with the love and validation that you've always had, the power to give yourself. You see, true connection with others isn't built on dependency. It's built on mutual respect, on understanding that we are all worthy of love, not because of how others perceive us, but because we know that we are enough, just as we are. When you stop seeking validation, you stop giving away your power, and in doing so, you make space for deeper, more meaningful relationships that are based on trust, respect, and love without the need for approval. You stop giving and giving until you're empty. Instead, you give from a place of wholeness, from a place of love that comes from within. Letting go of the need for validation isn't easy, but once you do, you'll feel lighter, you'll feel free, you'll feel empowered because you'll understand that the only validation you need comes from the person staring back at you in the mirror. You are enough. You've always been enough. And when you truly realize that, the world around you will start to reflect that truth back at you. No longer will you need someone else's approval to feel worthy. You'll know that the love you seek begins within you. ChatGPT said, "You've been giving, haven't you? Time, energy, love, pouring yourself into someone else, hoping that your efforts, your sacrifices will be met with the love and affection you're seeking in return." It feels like the right thing to do, doesn't it? After all, relationships are about give and take, right? You give your heart, and in return, you expect theirs. But somewhere along the way, you start to feel like it's not enough. You give more and more, but the connection starts to feel like an exchange, a transaction, not a bond. And in the quiet moments, you wonder, is this love? Or am I just trying to buy it with my own emotions? There's a quiet hurt that comes with this. When love becomes something you trade, something you give in exchange for something you hope to get, it's no longer love, it's a contract. And deep down, you know that contracts don't build connections, they create obligations. You find yourself in a constant cycle of giving, hoping that one day the love you're giving will be reciprocated, that your efforts will be seen, that your heart will be returned to you in the same way. But the longer you wait for that return, the more you realize that you've been setting yourself up for disappointment. Because love that's given with the expectation of receiving something in return isn't love, it's a transaction. It's hard to admit, isn't it? You've told yourself for so long that you're doing it out of love, that you're doing it because that's just what you do for the people you care about. But in the quietest moments when you stop to listen to your heart, you realize that you've been asking for something in return all along. And when it doesn't come, when you don't get what you expected, the hurt starts to build. You feel like you've been giving everything only to be met with emptiness. The truth is, love shouldn't have to be earned. It shouldn't be a transaction. Genuine love is not about what you can give in exchange for something you need. It's not about constantly keeping score, balancing the scale between what you've given and what you've received. Real love doesn't come with conditions or expectations. It's about connection, about being present, about being open and vulnerable without the fear that your heart will be rejected. When you love without conditions, you don't do it to get something in return. You love because love is what you have to give. Love is what flows from you naturally without the need to receive anything back. And that is where the power of true love lies. It's not about what you can get, it's about what you can give freely, fully, without reservation. This doesn't mean you give yourself away until you have nothing left. It doesn't mean you put yourself in situations where you're constantly pouring from an empty cup. What it means is that when you love freely, when you love from a place of strength and self-awareness, you don't expect anyone else to fulfill your emotional needs. You meet your own needs first, and you share your love with others from a place of abundance, not scarcity. You give because it comes from the heart, not because you expect to get something in return. And when you love in this way, when you love freely, without trying to earn someone's affection, you begin to experience love in a way you've never felt before. There's no manipulation, no games, no hidden agendas, just two people meeting each other halfway with the understanding that love is not about what you can get, but about how deeply you can connect. There's peace in that. There's freedom. Because when you stop making love a transaction, you stop depending on someone else's behavior to dictate your worth. You stop putting your happiness in someone else's hands. You start to realize that love is a choice. And it's a choice you make every single day, not to gain approval, but to show up for yourself and the people who are worthy of your love. So here's the breakthrough. Love, real love, is not a transaction. It's not about giving in hopes of receiving. It's about showing up, being vulnerable, and giving from a place of fullness. And when you start loving without expectation, you'll see that the relationships you cultivate will become more genuine, more meaningful, more connected. You won't have to beg for love anymore, because the love you're giving will always be enough. And that's when you'll finally know that you are worthy of love, just as you are, without any strings attached. You've been fighting for it, haven't you? Fighting for a love that feels like it's just out of reach, trying to hold onto something that deep down, isn't right for you. You've poured yourself into it, hoping that maybe, just maybe, they'll see you the way you need to be seen. You've given so much of yourself only to be met with emptiness, with longing, with a kind of love that leaves you more drained than fulfilled. And now here you are, staring at the choice you've been avoiding for so long, to walk away. The thought of it hurts, doesn't it? It feels like a loss. It feels like giving up. But I need you to hear this. Leaving isn't losing. It's the most powerful act of self-preservation you can choose. It's easy to convince yourself that if you just hold on a little longer, if you just try a little harder, things will change. You think maybe if you give them more time, more attention, more love, they'll finally see you. They'll finally appreciate you. But deep inside, you know that the longer you stay, the more you lose yourself in the process. You begin to lose sight of who you are, what you want, and what you need. The love you're fighting for isn't coming in the way you've dreamed, and yet you hold on because you've convinced yourself that walking away means you failed. But walking away doesn't mean failure. It means you found the strength to stop accepting less than you deserve. There's this deep fear, this fear of being alone, of being misunderstood, of feeling like walking away means giving up on something that could have been. But the truth is, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. You are not giving up on love. You're giving up on the idea that someone else can fulfill your emotional needs when they aren't even trying to meet you halfway. You're not walking away from love. You're walking away from the exhaustion, the heartbreak, and the empty promises that have kept you stuck in a cycle of unfulfilled expectations. You're choosing to love yourself enough to say, I deserve more than this. It's painful, I know. The thought of leaving behind someone you've invested so much in, the memories, the dreams, the moments you thought you'd share forever, it cuts deep. But staying in a situation that isn't serving you isn't love. It's a form of self-neglect. Every time you let someone treat you less than you deserve, you're telling yourself that you're not worth the effort, that your needs don't matter, but you do matter. Your heart, your time, your energy, they are valuable. And the moment you recognize that, the moment you realize you deserve a love that respects you, you find the strength to walk away. This isn't a loss. This is freedom. It's the freedom to reclaim your life, to put yourself first, to make space for the kind of love that doesn't leave you feeling empty but whole. It's the freedom to choose what's best for you, to stop begging for love and start living a life that's aligned with your worth. Walking away is a form of self-respect. It's saying, I will no longer settle for less than what I deserve. I will no longer stay in a place that diminishes my value. And in walking away, you begin to create space for healing, for growth, for healthier, more fulfilling connections. You stop looking outside of yourself for validation and you start validating yourself. You stop waiting for someone else to fill the void and you start filling it with your own love, your own care, your own understanding. You realize that the love you've been searching for was always inside you, waiting for you to see it. And once you let go of the fear of walking away, once you stop begging for something that doesn't nurture you, you open the door to the kind of love that's real, the love that starts with you. It's not easy. It's not meant to be. But walking away from something that isn't serving you is the beginning of your transformation. It's the moment you realize your worth isn't tied to anyone else's opinion of you. It's the moment you choose yourself over the false hope of someone else's love. And in that choice, you create the space for the life you've always dreamed of, a life where you don't have to beg for love because you already have it fully in yourself. You are not losing when you walk away. You are gaining everything that matters. And the strength you find in that choice will be the foundation of everything that comes next. You've spent so much of your life waiting for someone to see you, to validate you, to give you the love you've been craving. You've bent yourself in ways that no longer feel natural, hoping that maybe, just maybe, someone else will fill that emptiness inside of you. You've been searching for a piece of yourself in others, thinking that if they just loved you the right way, everything would finally make sense. But the truth is, the more you beg for love, the more you lose yourself. And in the process, you forget the one person you need to love most, you. The weight of constantly seeking validation from others is heavy. You carry it everywhere you go, hoping for a compliment, a kind word, a sign that you matter. You give pieces of yourself to people who aren't capable of seeing the real you. And each time it leaves you feeling more empty, more lost, more desperate. And yet there's a part of you that believes if I just try harder, if I just give a little more, if I make them love me. But the harder you try, the more you lose. And in the silence, when everything else fades away, the question lingers, what about me? What happens when you stop begging for love? What happens when you finally say, I don't need anyone to complete me. The moment you stop seeking love outside of yourself is the moment you discover a kind of freedom that changes. It's the kind of freedom that comes when you stop putting your worth in someone else's hands and start holding it yourself. It's the moment when you decide that you are enough just as you are, without needing to be anything else for anyone. Self-acceptance isn't easy. It doesn't happen overnight. For so long you've been taught that love comes with conditions. If you're this, if you're that, if you give enough, then you'll be loved. But what if the key to everything you've been searching for lies in accepting yourself fully? Not in the way others see you, but in how you see yourself. When you finally accept that you are worthy of love just because you exist, not because of what you do for others or how you make them feel, everything shifts. You stop chasing after something you were never supposed to beg for in the first place. When you stop begging for love, you start to realize something extraordinary. Love doesn't come from someone else's validation. It comes from within you. The moment you choose to love yourself without apology, without needing anyone else to prove your worth, you start to heal. You start to see your own value, not through the eyes of others, but through your own. You begin to fill that empty space inside of you with the love that you've been giving away to everyone else. And when you do that, the need to seek approval fades. You no longer feel incomplete. You are whole, exactly as you are. And here's the breakthrough. True freedom comes when you realize that you don't need anyone to complete you. You're not waiting for someone to save you because you've already saved yourself. You are already whole. The moment you accept that, you free yourself from the chains of seeking external love. You no longer need to bend yourself, twist yourself into someone else's idea of who you should be. You can stand tall in your truth, knowing that you are worthy of the same love and respect that you give to others. What you're realizing is that the love you've been looking for, the love you've been begging for, has always been inside of you. It was never about finding someone else to fill the space. It was about learning to feel it yourself. When you stop begging for love, you stop giving your power away. You start to see that you've always been worthy, always been enough. You just needed to accept it. And here's the truth that hits you like a revelation. When you stop seeking external validation, you unlock a love that is deeper, more fulfilling, and more real than anything you could ever find from someone else. You stop looking for completion and realize you are already complete. You stop searching for approval and realize you've always been worthy of love. You stop begging, and in doing so, you find the love you've been searching for all along. It was always inside of you. All you had to do was see it, accept it, and embrace it. That's when everything changes. That's when you are truly free. You've been searching, haven't you? You've been looking for something to fill the emptiness inside, looking for love, looking for affection, looking for someone to validate your worth. You've given pieces of yourself, hoping that by offering more, someone will finally see you for who you truly are. But every time you do, it feels like you lose a little more of yourself. The love you seek feels just out of reach, like something you have to earn, or like a prize you have to win. The more you give, the more you feel like you're left empty, waiting for someone else to give you what you're longing for. And I need you to hear this. What you've been looking for outside of yourself has always been inside of you. The love you've been searching for, the love you think you need from others, is already within you. It always has been. You've been looking to the outside world for something that only you can give yourself: respect, self-worth, and care. When you embrace the love you deserve, when you stop chasing it and start giving it to yourself, everything changes. It's not easy. You've been taught that love is something that comes from someone else, that someone else is the key to making you feel whole. You've been told that love is something you have to earn, that you have to prove your worth to be worthy of it. But what if that's not true? What if love isn't about begging for someone else's affection or constantly proving your value? What if love is about accepting yourself, honoring your needs, and recognizing that you are worthy of love just because you exist? The moment you stop looking for someone else to fill you up is the moment you start to realize that you are already complete. You don't need someone else's approval to know you're worthy. You don't need anyone else to tell you that you're enough. You are enough exactly as you are. And when you embrace that, when you start giving yourself the love you deserve, you stop seeking it from others in ways that drain you, in ways that leave you feeling unfulfilled. This shift, this transformation is everything. Because when you start to embrace the love you deserve, you start to attract the right relationships. You stop settling for the kind of love that leaves you feeling small, ignored, or unimportant. You begin to set boundaries, not out of fear or insecurity, but out of self-respect. You know what you deserve, and you stop accepting anything less. The love you attract is based on mutual respect, care, and understanding, because you've learned how to give that to yourself. Think about it. When was the last time you really showed yourself love? When was the last time you truly honored your own worth without waiting for someone else to recognize it? When you embrace the love you deserve, you start to realize that you don't need to wait for someone else to love you in the way you want. You start loving yourself in ways you never have before. You give yourself the attention, the affection, the respect that you've been seeking from others. You stop trying to fill the void with someone else's love and realize that you've always had the power to heal and nurture yourself. And here's where it hits. When you embrace the love you deserve, you finally stop seeking validation from others. You stop waiting for someone else to complete you. You realize that you are already whole, and that the relationships you create from this place of wholeness are deeper, more authentic, and more fulfilling. You stop looking for love in all the wrong places and start finding it in the one place that matters most within yourself. When you love yourself, when you embrace the love you deserve, you create the space for the kind of relationships that honor you, relationships that are built on respect, mutual care, and a deep understanding of each other's worth. You don't have to fight for love anymore. You don't have to beg for attention or validation. You simply are worthy of love, and the right people will see that and love you in return. So stop searching, stop begging. The love you've been looking for is already within you. It's time to embrace it, to honor it, and to let it guide you into the relationships you deserve. You've always been worthy. You've always been enough. And when you finally embrace the love you deserve, everything every relationship, every connection will shift. Because the greatest love you'll ever receive is the love you give to yourself. And once you know that, nothing and no one can take it away from you.